Boy, this is a time nobody wants to get up to speak when people have been sitting here for a couple of hours, so I will try to make my remarks really quick. Good evening, my name is Jan Eschauzier, and I reside at 15.5 River Street. 5 years ago, when my husband and I were looking to relocate in Massachusetts, we looked at many communities on the North Shore, and ultimately we chose Salem for many reasons, not least of which was an adorable little house on River Street. However, there was a problem. It backed up to what we considered a blighted and somewhat run-down area of Bridge Street. So not to be discouraged, however, I did some due diligence and I came across something that other people have mentioned tonight. I discovered the North River Canal Corridor Master Plan, a blueprint for smart growth practices that was exciting, aspirational, and sustainable. It noted that the, quote, reconstruction of Bridge Street offers an opportunity to create well-landscaped quality road that will improve the identity of the corridor and the edges of Leslie's Retreat Park. And I also discovered that Bridge Street was actually zoned two-family. Of course, since then I've learned that residential will not be permitted in that area, but somehow I envisioned artist loft space, galleries, small bakeries along that very stretch of road. As derelict properties became vacant and went on the market, I could look forward to their being replaced. It would become an attractive four-lane boulevard with well-landscaped areas on both sides of the street to generate pedestrian traffic by installing lighting and wide sidewalks to provide better access to open space by strengthening both physical and visual links to Leslie's Retreat Park, and to reduce the ecological footprint of future growth by residential projects that were in scale and character with the existing historic neighborhoods. In short, I envisioned Bridge Street as being transformed. We bought our house. I've planted bulbs along Beckford Way. I've helped clean up the undergrowth along Bridge Street. I've watched with interest as derelict buildings came down on Bridge Street, and now the future of the former Universal Steel site is in question. What is our collective vision for Bridge Street? I think perhaps that's where we've somewhat parted ways. Some of us are comparing what could be there to what is already there in sections of Bridge Street. I think we should take a more aspirational approach and think about what might be a better choice. The Universal Steel site will be a bookend to the Gateway site, which has been described as an urban village. How does a warehouse of the sort proposed by F.W. Webb fit into that vernacular, let alone into the abutting historic neighborhoods? And someone else has mentioned that the NRCC specifically prohibits warehousing and distribution facilities, and I think that's a very telling, it was the first item that they actually disallow. I believe we are being asked to take a step backward by allowing a building whose scale, mass, and use are better suited to another location. Again, please don't understand me. I have nothing but respect for F.W. Webb. I know that they have made an enormous contribution to the economy, and I recognize their deep roots in Salem, and I certainly would hate to lose their participation. I do question, however, whether they are asking us to pay too high a price, requiring us to dramatically change the zoning ordinance to accommodate their expansion on this particular site. I would like to quote the Urban Land Institute, quote, "The era when anything developed in an urban neighborhood was considered to be better than nothing is over. Desperation has driven many communities to accept developments that are inappropriate for an urban street and antithetical to an enjoyable pedestrian experience. Suburban-style pedestrian deficient retailing with blank walls facing the sidewalk, inappropriate building design and scale, and lack of pedestrian amenities are some of the most egregious mistakes that made many urban streets mean and decidedly unfriendly." As an aside, one of the goals of the master plan is to connect disparate neighborhoods and provide more open spaces where people can sit, walk, run, play, or bike. I fail to see how giving up Beckford Way, a direct physical and visual link to Leslie's Retreat Park, advances that goal of a more walkable, interconnected, and green city. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The next